Hello, everybody.
Hello.
And welcome to the Macabre Podcast universe. This is the podcast where we cover film franchises, and we exist to prove people wrong when they say that sequels are never better than the originals. And today, we are starting a new series. It's Ip Man. We're going thousands of miles away to China and watching a few of their movies. And with us today, we have an insane guest. You have seen him in many things, or you have seen his work in many things, but maybe you didn't know it. It is iLram Choi. Hello, iLram.
How you doing? Sound like it's an arena.
Yes.
Weighing in at 155 pounds.
And one of the things that you are best known for is you were the main stunt double on the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, exactly. There's three of us in total. And we all had our own speciality, but I was the wire guy and fight guy.
Cool.
Which Spider-Man does most of, but then we had a parkour guy and a guy that did skateboarding. But then we eventually started doing each other's work whenever one was available, because we had multiple units shooting at the same time.
Oh, okay. Well, and I remember I saw you. I was introduced to you as a person through, which we reference a lot on this podcast, the Corridor Crew, FX Artists React, or Stuntmen React, or whatever React. And you were on it, and you mentioned how you were integral to how Spider-Man started swinging.
Oh, yeah. So from the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, you notice his movements were perfect. He went in the direction that he wanted to go, and he swung in the same direction he was going. But then in this movie, we tried to do it as much as without CG. We want to do it practically as possible, even though there's quite a bit of CG in it. And doing this practically, we realized it is really hard to control yourself while you're swinging. It's like you're not Mario. I was telling the corner guy, you can't just jump in midair, then all of a sudden, I want to go this way.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when we did all the wire work and swinging, sometimes you start to rotate in mid swing, and so I took it upon myself on one scene in particular where I'm swinging under the bridge, where Spidey's swinging under the Brooklyn Bridge. It wasn't actually the Brooklyn Bridge. It was a bridge that looked like it. And I started rotating the opposite direction. And it took a long time to reset. So not to waste a shot, I just kind of just fudged it. I said, okay, well, I'll just bring the web between my legs and act like I'm rotating intentionally, and then shoot behind my back. And
so cool.
Yeah, and they loved it. And so it was all of us when we started swinging. I was just saying, look, you just be organic. You're swinging, you can't control yourself, but it's Spider-Man, just you're webbing everywhere. And so I think it was a collaboration of all of us trying to do our best to stay in line, but also knowing that just go with it. Don't waste the shot. And I think the FX guys observed this, and I feel it really influenced how Spidey was moving throughout the rest of the movies. Because I think Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Electro, there was more CG in that one, but I thought Spidey moved the best in that movie. I love the way flinging around, and it was just really messy and organic, and I loved it.
Oh, I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, we're gonna have to watch those and look for just the swinging. Have a Spider-Man month and watch all the movies and compare the swinging.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, are you a big Spider-Man fan, or did you just happen to be hired for that project?
Yeah, I just happened to be hired for it. If I were to pick any superhero, yeah, I'd be like, well, yeah, I would love to be Spider-Man.
Yeah. Well, you are.
Yeah.
I mean, in my mind, I'm talking to a Spider-Man. I'm just imagining this a Spider-Verse.
You're Micah's hero.
Yeah, seriously. I love Spider-Man.
Yeah, I had no idea I would ever be able to double him. And they had me also toward the beginning double Andrew Garfield without like the swing in the warehouse. So he wasn't in a suit, but yet I was doing the swinging. And
Cool.
they just did face replacement.
Oh man,
Oh.
that's cool.
Yeah, they put dots on my face and placed my face. If you saw my face at any point, it was then swapped with Andrew's during the swinging scene in there.
That is so cool, man. Well, thank you for coming on. I can't remember if I said this before I introed or after I introed, but we're doing a stunt-heavy martial arts series, and we really wanted to get some expertise in that field. And who better to call than someone who actively works in the stunt community and is in a bunch of movies you've seen. So we're really thankful that you're
Yes.
here, and we can't wait to talk about this insane, cool movie. And now I was looking through your credits, and you have a lot of stunt coordinator credits. Is that right?
Yeah, I did some coordinating. Definitely a stunt performer more than a coordinator. I enjoy being the performer.
Cool.
Stunt coordinating is cool. You know, you get to delegate work and be creative at times. But it's just a lot of paperwork.
Oh, really?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're coordinating, you know, you're calling people. You gotta, make sure people are on time and fill out this. It's just a lot of paperwork. Going to the production meetings it gets pretty boring.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense why you'd rather be doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You show up, do some cool stuff, and then leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stunt coordinating, it's like you got to be there early in the morning, like the first one there and the last one to leave. And then you have homework, you go home and you
Yeah, right.
got to do scheduling and all that stuff. So, nah.
Yeah.
So when you're stunt coordinating, I'm just very curious because I feel like my only knowledge on stunts is just a little bit of behind the scenes footage and then the corridor crew videos. So if you're coordinating, does that mean you help plan what the stunts will be and you delegate that, or you're just making sure people are where they're supposed to be?
It's both.
It's both. Okay.
Yeah. And usually you need a stunt coordinator on set if there's any action involved, just for insurance reasons. So sometimes production, they can't get insurance unless there's a stunt coordinator attached to it, because we're risk management. We're making sure that no one's going to die or get hurt. So the production is going to get sued by somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we're definitely a necessity on set, especially with any action films. But we're sometimes thrown into the creative side of it. But I've been on movies where the director, he wants to do everything. You're just there to just to make his creativity, his vision come true.
Okay.
In the safest way possible.
Right.
Okay.
The director's like, oh man, I want two guys, get hit by a car and they fly in there. It's like, okay, well, if you want real guys to do it, it's like, I want the car to go 60 miles per hour. It's like, well, that's not possible.
Right.
And yeah, creatively, where you can do is you can talk with the director and be creative and say, you know what, if you shot from this angle or if you did this type of cut, you could get what you want, but in a different creative way that's safer and sometimes more impactful, and you can help set up the shot that way.
Wow. It's so interesting, just all these different jobs in the film industry that don't necessarily get a lot of credit. I mean, it sounds like without stunt coordinators, we don't have, I don't know,
a lot
90% of the movies that we love. So
I know, it's really interesting. And it's been an ongoing thing where the stunt people are upset that we can't be in the Oscars. It's like you have every category in the film: makeup artist, wardrobe, special effects, editing, sound, and then, like you said, stunts is an integral part of movie making. I mean, and some, when I first got started, and I heard the controversy of, oh man, they don't want the stunts in the Oscars. I was trying to justify it for the Oscars, like, well, it's stunts. We're always like behind the scenes. We don't care about having credit, and not every movie's an action film. Maybe that's why.
Mhm.
But then, well, not every movie has special effects. Not every movie is like heavy wardrobe and makeup.
Totally.
And then I was like, oh, okay, that's weird. Yeah, you're right. It's like, why isn't there a category for stunts? Yeah, it's weird. I don't know.
I mean, it's like, usually things that win towards the end, like the big awards, are more of the dramas and stuff. So like they always kind of get their due, which it just does leave out a lot of other genres, I feel like.
Oh,
so it's like
yeah.
you do, like that recognition is so necessary, I think.
Yeah. Well, and we talk about this so much on the podcast where there's so many movies. For example, the one we're going to talk about today, this is like a fantastic movie, but it would never get like prestige awards in America, even though it's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's like well told, well shot, well acted.
Yeah.
It's still just like, well, but that's not a serious movie in regard, like
Compared
another
to
movie.
an Oscar baity movie or something. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Crazy.
not at all. Like just chop sake. It's like, just a bunch of kung fu people.
Right. So let's jump into the specifics of this movie. I gotta load my note up. It went away. So right off the bat, I gotta warn our audience. I don't know the Chinese languages very well, and I will probably butcher a lot of these names, but I am trying my best, and that is not my intention. So this movie is directed by Wilson Yip, who directed all 4 Ip Man movies. It's written by Edmund Wong, who did all 4 Ip Man movies and the spin-off, the Legacy movie, which we'll also cover. And it's also written by Chan Tai, who did all the Ip Man movies.
Cool.
Except for the spin-off one. The music is by Kenji Kawai, who also did Ghost in the Shell. That was the only one I recognized because I'm not familiar with a lot of Chinese cinema. But the score in this movie was awesome.
Yeah, I loved it.
I was like, dang, I want to put this on my phone and just walk around and kung fu in the backyard or something. This is cool.
It's very dramatic.
Yeah. And right off the bat with that title sequence, I was like, oh man, we are in for it.
Yeah.
The cinematography is by Oh Sing Pui, Pui. And you know what? Very stupidly, I didn't put down who did the stunt coordinating.
Oh, that's terribly
ironic.
ironic.
Well, the fighting was done by Sammo Hung. Sammo Hung with the.
Oh, okay.
He was part with Jackie Chan, that whole team.
Cool. Okay.
Oh, got it. That's very cool.
Way to go, Micah. Totally drop the ball.
Oh, Sammo's always known to be the fat Chinese kung fu master.
Oh, okay. This is all pretty new to us. So anything you want to school us on history wise, we are so down to hear that. Well,
Sammo was a lot of the Jackie Chan films back in the day. Sammo and Jackie worked together in a lot of the films, and they acted in the films together. And then they broke away and they started making their own things. But I think Sammo even directed Jackie Chan in a couple of I think several of his films. I can't remember, but Sammo was also in this. It was an American TV show, some detective thing. I forgot what it was. He was just a detective.
The show is called Martial Law.
Did badass kung fu, an American TV show. I want to say
cool.
Forgot who he was teamed up with. But yeah, he was here in the U.S. actually on a TV show. I forgot what that show was called.
Well, we'll have to look it up and throw it in the description, or I'll do a little overdub when I'm editing the episode. Okay, so back to the notes here. The budget of the movie is $11.7 million, and then the worldwide box office is $22 million. So that's our stuff on that. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of the movie. In 1998, Jeffrey Lau and Corey Yoon wanted to make a film about Ip Man, but the studio that they would have made it with got closed.
Oh, okay.
But at that time, they had already signed Donnie Yen, and he got paid for some of it before they even shot the movie.
Whoa, really?
I don't know if he had to give that money back or anything like that. But
his contract.
And then, so Raymond Wong, who's the producer of this movie, later on, with the consent from Ip Man's sons, starts working on the movie. So his sons have kind of like, you saw in the credits, they were like consultants on the film.
Oh, cool.
And then while filming, a conflict arose because Wong Kar-wai was making a film called The Grandmaster, which was originally going to be called The Great Master, about Ip Man. And while his movie, and then this movie was originally going to be called Grandmaster Ip Man. So they had to like change the titles of both their movies because they're about the same person.
Oh.
Have you seen The Grandmaster?
Yeah, I think it's been a while. It was beautifully shot.
Oh, really? Okay. Would that be a recommend if you like the Ip Man stuff, or is it not as good? Or
man, I can't remember. It's been a while. I just remember the cinematography was really cool. And like I said, I haven't seen Ip Man in a very long time, and I rewatched it yesterday, and I was like, oh wow, this is no wonder they're making multiple Ip Mans.
Yeah.
Pretty badass.
We are not like I have only seen the movie once before, and I started it at like midnight, so I kind of fell asleep at the end. So this was the first time I really, really watched it, and it's very cool. But I'm like, how is there 3 more story wise? So I'm really curious where the series goes in the story.
That's how I felt too. I think I've seen, before watching it last night, most of it like on TV as just growing up. So last night too was like first time fully just sitting down watching it, and I thought I had seen it, like all of it, and then I'm watching it and I just felt like I was watching it for the first time. And I kind of felt the same way. That's like, there's like 3 more and a spinoff.
Yeah, it's like, but I mean, we'll see as we go. That's what this podcast does.
Yeah.
This is Donnie Yen and Wilson Yips, the director's 4th collaboration. And, I did write Sammo. Did you say it's pronounced Young?
Sammo Hung.
Sammo Hung.
Yeah.
He did the martial arts choreography. So I did write it. It was just lower in my notes than usual.
Should have been at the very top, Micah.
It really should have.
I hope Sammo Hung, maybe Young.
Yeah.
I'm Korean, not Chinese.
Yeah, no assumptions there. I just you'd said his name before. So Donnie Yen went on a strict diet because he had to slim down for the movie. So he was eating 1 meal a day, and he had a shoulder injury and had trouble raising it. So he had a masseuse on set. So after they would shoot scenes, he'd have to get it like
that sounds painful.
All massaged. And then finally, my last note is during that scene in the mill where the people are wielding the axes.
Yes.
Donnie got cut like right near one of his eyes, and he thought he was gonna be like scarred like pretty badly, but it turned out okay.
Wait, so okay.
Axes? Why would they do that?
Yeah, and I accidentally
I
got
know
out
that's
of
what
the...
I'm thinking.
Dude, that's as a stunt coordinator. Yeah, no.
That's
like,
kind of
those
insane.
would all be like foam,
right?
Rubber at the most.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of shocking to me that happened. So, but
and it's like this movie came out in 2008, so it's not like this movie came out in like, I don't know, 30 years ago. When sometimes things like that, it's like, okay, back then they kind of maybe they did stuff like that. I don't know.
Right. So yeah, that is all my notes for the movie. So it's your turn, Jordan. Take it away.
Okay, I'll go through this quickly. So Donnie Yen is more recently, so he is in the live action Mulan movie that's forthcoming.
Yeah, I was so excited that he's in that. He's like the reason I want to see that movie.
Yeah. He's also in Rogue One.
Yeah.
And then he's in so many things, a ton of martial arts movies. Obviously, he's an Empress in The Warriors, Painted Skin. He's in Blade 2, Hero, Shanghai Knights, Seven Swords. And that he's in so much more, but that's more kind of around the time that this movie came out, more or less. That's Donnie Yen in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And then Simon Yam, who plays Quan, but I don't think that's how they said it. That was the guy that like challenged him at the beginning of the movie.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he ends up dying. He is in the Lara Croft movie.
Oh, the
And
new one or the Angela Jolie?
Angelina Jolie one.
Or Angelina, not Angela.
Yeah. And then he's in a ton of action movies, like a ton of action movies.
Okay.
Including Lara Croft.
Yeah.
And then Lin Xian, I think is how you say it, who plays Ip Man's wife. This is her first role.
Oh, okay.
And then she's not in too much. She's in a movie called My Sassy Girl 2.
Ooh, the first one. Love that movie. I didn't know they made a sequel.
Yeah, I guess there's a sequel.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah, it was the first Korean film I actually bought.
Oh,
cool. Yeah, the
Okay.
description for this one was the sequel to the Korean movie.
Okay.
Was the IMDb description premise of it.
Wait,
okay.
wait. So is there like a Korean movie, My Sassy Girl,
Yeah.
and then there's an American movie, My Sassy Girl 2?
No, I don't know if it's American.
Oh, okay.
That's just what the premise said.
Oh, okay.
So, the premise of the second movie sounded like your classic romantic comedy. So what's the first one about?
The first one is also a romantic comedy, but it was based on a true story. Supposedly there was letters that, like a diary or a journal, that was being passed around through the internet, and yeah, supposedly it was a true thing. It was just very dysfunctional relationship between this guy and girl. She was very abusive. But then it ended up working out. But it's a really good movie. I won't spoil the.
Oh, dang. Cool.
But it's really good.
We'll have to watch it.
We're definitely watching it. Then.
Maybe it's got our boy Kang Ho Song in it, and we just don't know about that yet.
I don't know.
It's funny.
Okay, good.
And then she's also in a show called Material Queen where she plays the lead. From like 2011.
Cool.
And then Hiroyuki Ikeuchi, who plays General Miura. He is in Space Battle Yamato.
This is the Japanese general,
the Japanese
right?
general.
Okay.
So he's in Space Battle Yamato. 13 no Suki, My Sassy Girl TV show.
Oh, there's a TV show.
According to IMDb.
Wow.
And then Shen Yu, who plays Lin, he's in My Wife is a Gambling Maestro.
Whatever that is, I gotta see it.
Kung Fu Jungle, and then Master Z, the Ip Man Legacy. And Lin is the guy who is trying to find his tin box for the stuff that his brother's kite was in.
Oh, so he's in the spinoff. So the spinoff must take place before Ip Man 1.
Oh, yeah, because he's... Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then Tenma Shibuya, who plays Colonel Sato. He doesn't have many acting credits other than he seems to have been in a lot of theater productions because that's what his bio was talking about.
Okay.
I mean, he's the colonel who was really violent, who shot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then he also plays General Sato in the Choice TV show. Not really sure if there's a correlation or not because that's the same character name.
Oh.
And then he's in The Flowers of War, which is a movie with Christian Bale.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's he's in a little bit of other stuff, but not much.
Cool.
But that's it.
That's what you got. Great. So, since you are a stunt person, do you do much? Are you versed in martial arts stuff? And if so, what style?
Yeah, I started being Korean. I learned martial arts through a community church growing up.
Cool.
Yeah, the community. So it was basically it was in Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky. That was our youth program. Is the Korean boys would go learn Korean. We would go to Korean school, Sunday school, and then Taekwondo or Taekwondo, pronounced in English.
Yeah.
So we would have that every Sunday, and I hated it. So I didn't.
Oh, really?
Do it at all. We were just forced to do it, like a type of exercise. We learned Taekwondo, and then the girls learned dancing. So that was my first style, and then eventually I liked the cool stuff, and so I just started practicing all the cool flying kicks and spinning kicks, and eventually Street Fighter 2 was a huge influence. for me to start doing tricks. So I started mimicking like Ryu and Ken and Guile, all the characters in Street Fighter, because
Whoa.
That's cool.
backflip kick, tornado, double spinning kick, all these like crazy stuff. And there was no internet back then.
Yeah.
It was just video games. And then my dad, I remember, did a front handspring, and I was like, "Whoa, what's that?" And then eventually got into Jackie Chan films. So I started just making up my own stuff, and unknowns to me, everyone else was doing the same thing, which like XMA, started to come up, and the whole Paul Mitchell, like people doing katas, incorporating gymnastics with martial arts. So that's kind of the era that I started from, and I call it movie foo.
Nice. Yeah, that's great.
I didn't really take it seriously. I wasn't like, oh, you should follow the way and have integrity and all. I was like, no,
Right.
having fun. And even going to college, I ended up going to Savannah College of Art and Design, and I had a bunch of friends. Obviously, we got together and like, wow, you do martial arts, you too, and so we started sharing each other's forms and techniques. Like there's a guy that did Aikido, Wing Chun, and Shaolin Long Fist. So then we just started showing each other, like, well, this is what I do, this is what we do, and then we start making up stuff.
Oh, that's
That
cool.
was my background, and stunts was like the furthest thing from my mind. Because I didn't think, how do you even do that? I have no idea. But then eventually I moved out to Hollywood and did it, got into it. And it was just, like I said, just movie food, just for fun. It's funny, you go into the industry, especially in the martial arts, just like the movies you see, they have so much pride and ego with their style. And I remember I would just meet another martial artist, and back then it was kind of like, what belt are you? I'm like, no belt.
Yeah.
It's like, and then I say, I just do it for fun. And then all of a sudden they drop their guard, like, oh, okay, all right, cool. And it's weird. So you have this friend, like, just like in the movie.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy. That's really interesting.
Well, I suppose if it's like passed down like that, that mentality would take a long time to dissipate, I would imagine, if it's regarded as such a high art form.
Yeah. And pride's always a big thing that plays into stuff.
Yeah.
For sure. Which kind of like, I think in this movie is a big theme in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like, Ip Man doesn't seem very prideful. He's very private.
Yes.
And it all leads up until, like, the last fight scene. The Japanese general is like, it has to be in front of people.
Right.
When it's like, for Ip Man, it's just, most of that stuff has been in private.
Yes.
For him.
Well, and even for him, he's, of course, we're jumping to the end of the movie, but he has like the good version of pride, because like he won't accept the food that he's trying to feed him and stuff, because he's saying, you're being hypocritical.
Right.
And you're starving the Chinese, and now you're giving me food so you can fight me. And he's like, I'm not going to take your food. I don't care about it.
Right.
I'm just going to fight you. So he has pride too, but it's like the good version of pride.
Right.
So when you go into a movie like this, that's martial arts heavy or stunt heavy, what to you is like, this is a good move? Like what are red flags for you, or what are things where like that suck you in and you go, they did this right?
Well, first of all, I complain about this all the time, especially with the Marvel films and the action, is the continuity of strength. When you show somebody beating up 10 people easily, and then all of a sudden you're caught in a situation and you have a hard time beating up 2 people, unless they're superhuman, just be consistent. And a lot of the fights you see that where they go in and they're super badass, right? And they can protect themselves, they can dodge bullets. But then all of a sudden the bad guy shows up, or his henchmen, and clearly they're not as good as some of these people, or in some of the situations it wasn't as risky, or they were in such peril, yet they're having a hard time. And that's definitely a red flag for me. And I'm immediately like, come on. It's like, you can beat this guy with one punch, and this guy, you can't even get rid of him. So that, so the continuity of strength, and this one definitely had it, because I forgot a lot of it, and toward the end, I was like, oh, is the director going to be like, oh no, we're going to have Ip Man almost get killed and this and die, and he's going to have a hard time fighting this guy? I'm like, no, you've definitely showed us that he was a badass, and they definitely ended him. Ended the whole thing as, he's a badass. So
that was something I really appreciated, because
Me too.
By the time you get there, you already know he's going to wipe the floor with the general. And so if they had done kind of like a Rocky sort of thing, where like he gets beaten up and he's down for the count, and then he remembers like the miracle move to kill him or something. I just wouldn't have fit in line with what you said, the strength continuity.
And I think I'm like, because of like a lot of the Marvel movies, I am like conditioned to like feel that big showdown's happening. Okay, I got about 20 minutes to sit through this. And didn't happen. It was pretty quick, and it was like, that was pretty dang refreshing.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like that moment in Captain Marvel that they kind of, do you remember at the end, she's about to fight Jude Law, and he goes, "Don't fight me with your power," and she's like, "Nah," and she just punches him like as hard as she can, and I was like, oh, that was really refreshing, because we already know she's powerful, and she just punches the heck out of this guy.
Yeah. There was an incident on Spider-Man where I had talked to the fight coordinator and the director, and since I was doubling him, I felt like I had a place to say something, and I understand lots of times when directors, when they're directing the movie, they're looking for the emotion, and they're directing the actors in the whole scene through feeling and emotion. So logic is kind of out the door. It's like, but he has a gun to shoot him. No. I want this moment. I want him to feel this pain. And I'm like, oh, that's okay. And so one particular scene, I know I'm going off a tangent. We can stay on track. I don't know if
that's okay.
Okay.
Oh, no, this happens. Awesome. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a scene where in The Amazing Spider-Man, where Andrew Garfield, playing Peter Parker, is going around looking for his uncle's killer. He's going around just kind of being a vigilante and looking for that tattoo on the wrist, so he can bring his uncle's killer to justice. And it's a montage of him beating up all these guys, but there's one particular scene where he goes in an alleyway and you see this thug smacking around a woman, and Peter Parker's like, "Hey, pick on someone your own size." And I don't know if you remember that scene, but what the director wanted, it was written that the thug pulls out a gun, and Spider-Man disarms it and beats him up. So then the fight coordinator and the director get together, and they try to choreograph and come up with something. But the director wanted, again, the emotion of he wanted to show how angry Peter was and how frustrated he was in searching for this guy who killed his uncle. And he wanted the scene where he disarms a guy from the gun, but then he grabs him and he starts punching him in the face, like over and over and over till he gets to the ground, just showing his frustration. And then I had to interject. I was like, guys, this is Spider-Man. He can punch through steel. He can pick up a car and throw it. Like, his anger and frustration and punching a guy's face, he would liquefy him. He would knock his head off in the first punch. Like the continuity of strength. It's like, it doesn't make sense. And first of all, why would this guy pull out a gun on this kid? Like, I said that too. But again, they don't like, well, no, we just want, he has to be it has to be really risky. It has to be in this peril, like a gun. Okay, whatever. Like,
yeah, right.
So did they? I can't recall. Did they wind up doing?
They changed it. they took my advice. They understood. They're like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And even the actor, Andrew Garfield, was there too, and it's like he agreed with me. That he was like, yeah, that didn't make sense. And so what we had was they still had a guy pull out a gun, but instead of doing like a block move or something, again, Spider-Man's strong. It's like there's no fear. So he pulled out the gun. He just grabs his wrist. He just crushes his wrist. He ends up dropping the gun, and then he grabs the guy and just tosses him to the wall and knocks him out.
That's right. I think I'm remembering that now. Yeah. Just kind of like, I'm mad and I don't even want to put too much thought into this. I'm just chucking you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hearing both versions, it's like the one that you just said, it's like that seems more impactful and logical.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, I understand the directors. They want the emotion, and that's what we go see films for, is the acting, and we want to care about the person, and they want the stakes, high stakes.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like there's a good balance if you're just aware of it. You can educate the audience, and I feel especially with the Marvel films, you just kind of numbed everyone on, like, no one knows their superpower. Like, okay, what's Thor's power? Like, how strong is he? It's like, it's like,
right.
Like another part of I forgot which one is it, Adventures, Infinity War.
That seems right. Yeah,
the one that he had to open up that the iris for the dead star, or the star to forge his new weapon.
Yeah, that's Infinity War. Yeah.
Okay, Infinity War. Yeah, so I understand he's a god, but
right.
clearly his hair was cut in the previous movie, Thor Ragnarok. So his hair's not super invincible, and nor is his clothes. So he should have been a bald, naked dude after that thing opened.
Right.
Yet he just had some singeing here and there, and his clothes was fine. And still had his eyebrows.
Yeah. Well, you can't get rid of Chris Hemsworth eyebrows. Those are the moneymakers.
And don't let him open up some iris of some
I know, right?
sun.
That's so funny. I feel like a
ridiculous.
lot of those things, they just don't even penetrate my brain.
Which I think sometimes when you're making a movie and you're making those calls, it's like, assuming that the audience is already, like, they bought the ticket. They literally bought into all of that suspension of disbelief. But there are limits.
Yeah,
for
totally,
sure.
totally.
Which goes back to the It Man. And if you did that with martial art movies, you start to be like, it lowers the stakes, because you're not concerned about, are they going to hurt? They're super strong. They're doing this.
Yeah.
They're superhuman anyway. So then you're kind of like, okay, you don't really care about them as much. You just see the fight, but then after a while, you get bored.
Right.
Yep.
Well, cool. Let's jump into the specifics of the movie now. So the main title sequence starts. We have the great music playing, and then we see Ip Man. Like, do you know what that is called? That thing he's practicing with?
The Wing Chun dummy.
The Wing Chun dummy.
Say it wrong. The dummy, the Wing Chun dummy.
And that's the style of fighting he's using, right?
Yeah, was you heard in the movie, it was created by a woman, female.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
It's what?
It was created by a woman. So there was that point in the movie where they're like, you're using a woman's style of fighting, and he's like, it doesn't matter who made it. It's effective.
Oh, I think I looked down at that part.
It was before he fights the thug that comes in, and he fights him with the feather duster at one point.
Yeah.
So we see the title sequence, and we see that Foshan, the region we are in, is known for its martial arts.
It's 1935.
And it's really cool because I don't know anything about this part of history. So for me, this is like new stuff, and I don't know how accurate or inaccurate the movie is.
Yeah.
But it's cool that there's like this town, and there's all these different schools, and they have duels with each other, like martial arts duels. I mean, I just think that's so cool.
Yeah.
It'd be an exciting town. You're like, wow, let's go into town. Let's see who's fighting.
Right.
Well, and the movie, I think it really plays well into like how a legend is born. Like,
Yeah.
because even at the beginning, one of the masters visits Ip Man and he asks him to duel, and Ip Man's like, "Let me have dinner first, and then we can fight, but we'll fight privately."
Right.
They fight privately. This other character sees him through a window, and then this story spreads throughout town that Master Ip just like destroyed Master Lee, I think.
That sounds right. Yeah.
And it's just this cool,
and isn't that guy he was planning on opening a new school? I think.
I think he had one already.
Already had one? Okay.
He said he just opened a new school and he just wanted to practice with Ip Man because he heard he was good. He wanted to see for himself.
So for someone to see that he lost is bad for his new school.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, maybe he's not that good. I was going to say too, I think that the sets throughout the movie are, I don't know, they're just like, I think they're really great vehicles for all of the action because for the most part, they're pretty wide open.
Yeah.
Like even Ip Man's house is pretty wide open. The martial arts school, it's like, basically a courtyard. Even the mill is like, just like a big warehouse.
Yeah.
I like how they use big spaces for a lot of it. But they still like, when they're fighting at Ip Man's house, they're still obviously affecting what's going on around them by breaking furniture and stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So they have this fight, and then later, like, Master Lee's reputation is at stake, and like the police come, and then
Are you talking about when they're like at the restaurant?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's just this great scene, and you're just like, oh, but if you're not already in on the movie, this will do it for you. It's the police officer like pulls a gun on Master Ip, and he's like saying how guns are better than.
They're the way of the future.
Yeah, and they're better than fists. And then Donnie Yen just whips up and puts his thumb in the trigger so that the gun can't be pulled, and then he just like taps the barrel, and the barrel flies out of the gun.
You mean the chamber?
Or the chamber, yeah.
Yeah.
And that starts this whole theme that's throughout the movie. That is like I guess peaceful fighting with fists versus guns and warfare.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of shown throughout the movie to the effect of like the Japanese come and they're always using guns and stuff. But at the end, what prevails is fists and fighting that way. And even when he is shot, it does not break the spirit of the Chinese at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this like gun thing that's like, no, this is a better way than the gun.
Yeah. If anything, it's more respectful too, because once they get to that last fight and the general is like, if you win, I'm going to kill him. If he wins, I'm going to kill him.
Right.
Which the general tells the colonel, like, that would be dishonorable. Like, that would mean that we still lose.
Yes.
If you did that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That's when he was saying, don't do the fight. Like, don't challenge him, because what if you lose? Let's just shoot him. And then he's like, well, that's just the same thing. It's like, he challenged me. That means he thinks he's better than me. Then if I shoot him, then I've just basically said, yep, you are better than me. So that's why I just cheated.
Right. Right.
So then we're jumping all over to that end, because the end really just like ties a bow on this movie so perfectly. But we have this guy named Jin who comes into town, and he starts challenging the martial art masters. Mm-hmm. And I think he is using kung fu. Is that correct? Like his style is different than their styles.
It looked like kind of like long fist, but I forgot that style. It's a very hard style where you're using your forearms a lot. But
okay.
But a lot of the styles are mixed. I saw some praying mantis with some bakwa, so I'm not I guess knowledgeable, even though I do martial arts and stunts. As far as all those styles, I can't quite distinguish all of them. I mean, praying mantis is pretty obvious in tiger style, but then when they start blending in all these different moves, I think they're just being creative.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
But he rolls into town. He challenges a master, and he just like wipes the floor with the guy pretty quickly. And then he goes on to the next guy, and they whip out swords. And this is when you're like, oh, baby, this is getting really good. And so I think he wipes the floor with him. I don't think he kills him.
I don't think he kills anyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the scene.
And then he goes up to Ip Man's house, and he says, I want to challenge you.
Right.
And
throughout, especially the first part of this movie, you're seeing the struggles between him and his family. People are constantly coming to his house seeking advice, seeking practice, and you can tell that there is tension between him and his wife and his son. His son is kind of ignoring him now because he's ignoring his son, or that's how it's perceived.
Yes, I'm glad you're touching on this.
His wife urging him like you need to pay more attention to your family.
Yeah.
But because he is Grandmaster Ip Man, like he's torn between those two things.
Right.
So the thug comes, challenges him. You have more of that tension, but they do fight.
Yeah.
But he starts. The thug is offending his wife, and so she's pretty much like, just do it, like defending your honor.
Yeah. And this fight is amazing. I love this, and there's a lot of that effect. I mean, they do this throughout the movie a lot where, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they put like dust or powder on them. So when they hit, it like explodes dust.
Yeah.
And that always looks cool. That is never going to not work on me. I love that. So I was curious, you watching the movie, are they really going at it for the most part? Because to me, someone who's not familiar very much, even with this genre, I it's like kind of a blank slate for me that I need to watch more martial arts movies. But I feel like I'm seeing these shots where it looks like Donnie Yen is really taking these hits and stuff and like actually blocking them.
Yeah, it's both. I know, like with Jackie Chan stuff, when you do like a lot of Hong Kong style fighting, obviously, if you've ever sparred with somebody, it starts hurting a lot when you're when you're bashing your shins or forearms together over and over and over, take after take. So there's a technique, I don't know what it's called, but once it's choreographed, you don't actually make hard contact. You're barely touching each other, but if it looks like it's a hard impact, the other person that's taking the hit is acting like and mimics a recoil of the fist getting hit, on your hand. And I feel that's a very advanced way of doing the choreography. But majority of the time, 90% of the time when we're doing movies and we do choreography, they're just hitting you and you're blocking. you're
really?
going through the moves because it looks real, because you throw contact and you throw the block and you see the body recoil and the jolt of your forearms or legs getting contacted, just like an Ip Man. And so I believe they are really hitting and making contact. But depending on what wardrobe they have, you can have padding. You can have
that's true.
And your legs and stuff. I would say the master shots, they would probably go a little easy and just go through the choreography. But then the specialty shots where they focus in on the hit, that's when they're going to say, okay, just hit me.
Okay.
And you do slow motion, but you know how to take a hit. You're a martial artist, you're a stunt guy, and you're like, go ahead, really kick me, and boom, you get thrown back. And obviously, it's a lot more forgiving when you know it's coming versus when you don't know.
That's true.
And also, you can exaggerate it, so it looks more impactful. It hits your head, and you like sling your head back, and like, whoa, that was a hard hit. You're like, well, usually a real hit, it doesn't move your body as much.
Right.
Like, for instance, there's this one, a stunt guy told me about this one story of a coordinator was observing this one fight, and it was two stunt guys, and one stunt guy had to kick the other stunt guy in the chest. And the director was like, can you do it harder? Or no, he was telling them, like, kick him harder. And take after take, the guy was like kicking him like straight up in the chest.
Oh.
And he's like, harder. And he's doing full contact, and the guy's getting hurt. His chest is like aching. But then the coordinator went to the stunt guy who's taking the kick. It's like, react more, like act like you just. And that's what you tend to do, is like when you're doing a stunt, when you know you're going to hit something, you tense up. You know, you tense up and you take it. But if you ever seen someone tense up in their stomach and get punched, it doesn't look like they get hit. You know, because they're tensing up. And but the whole point of movie making, smoke and mirrors, is you fake it. You act like you just got hit. And so the guy barely didn't have to touch his chest, but then the other stunt guy reacted huge. And the director's like, yeah, like that.
Okay.
Yeah, because the director doesn't know how to direct that. He just wants to look like the kick is hard.
Right.
Like he doesn't know. I was like, oh, can you react like it was a hard kick?
Right. Yeah. I think too, especially with this movie, the sound effects are so intense.
Yeah.
So when someone gets hit, it's like, oh man, that hurt to hear, because that looked like it really hurt too, because of everything else you just explained. Mm-hmm. It's just all this beauty. It's just all works together so well.
Right.
And they speed up the film a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what do you know, like what they would shoot the frame rate of this at?
I don't know now, but I heard 24.
24,
so,
and then they...
Yeah, and then they played on 30. I might have got that wrong. They shoot it in 24 up and they shoot it. But they shoot it a little bit faster. And then when they play it back, yeah, it looks really fast.
That makes sense, especially when he's doing his bullet punches, where he's just like beating the life out of somebody.
Yeah.
Starts with the face, goes down to the chest.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's really fast. I mean,
Oh yeah.
You've seen some of these wushu choreographed like competition, and they're super fast. But sometimes for safety reasons, and also to make the scene more crisp, when you see the contacts, that's one thing about this Hong Kong style of fighting. Everything is super crisp. You see where the hits go. You see where the block is, and that's the effect of shooting at a higher frame rate, faster, so you can take your time. So you're going at like a pace like this, but then when you see it, it's going.
Okay.
And it's like, oh wow, it's so nice and fast, and the choreography is crisp. It's like, well, if you can take your time,
yeah, you
can make those moves look nice.
Man, well that's a nice little look behind the curtain there.
Yeah.
Well, so they're in this fight, and the I'll just call him the bad guy. He does this awesome shot where he kicks a sword out from a sheath and catches it. And then that's when Donnie Yen grabs his feather duster and hands it to him with a feather duster versus a sword. That is like, how does it
and
get any cooler than that?
And he does it again later in the movie.
He does with the pole, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is when the guy says this, and I think there's a lot of like, I mean, I really don't know, but I feel like a lot of the translation from this movie from Cantonese to English was maybe they could have spent a little more time translating it. But he says, well, actually, this line doesn't feel like that, but it's just kind of a funny way to phrase it. He says, "My northern style has lost to your southern style," and then he like leaves. It's like, okay,
right.
And then let's see. There's people. Oh yes, and then it cuts to there's people outside of his mansion, and they're all like, "Train us, train us, train us," and he says no, and then it kind of cuts to black, and then it says the Japanese have conquered the Chinese, or at least
they've invaded
this region. Yeah, invaded this region.
This becomes a movie I had no idea that it was going to go here because, like I said, I thought I've seen it, and I definitely have not seen it. And I was like, oh shoot, this is getting like really intense.
Yeah. And we find out that like Ip Man's house is being resided by, it's like a Japanese military headquarters. Mm-hmm. And him and his wife and child are living in this little tiny house, and and basically the Chinese are starving.
Yeah.
So this is when Ip Man like goes and he's looking for a job, and he starts shoveling coal.
Yeah.
And while he's doing it, he sees Lynn, and then the old police officer from the beginning of the movie comes in and he says, "Hey guys, if you want to fight for food, you can come to this, basically a dojo, and fight for food. If you win, you get a bag of rice."
Mm-hmm.
So Lynn and some other people volunteer. They show up, and we see the stoic Japanese general who is having people fight. And you're seeing the bags of rice being thrown around and stuff like that. And this is a pretty cool sequence. I like this sequence. But then Lynn fights the general mano a mano.
Yeah.
And the general destroys him.
Yeah.
And I mean, speaking to what we were just saying about the hard hits, this fight, like, I really felt it as a viewer. It was like, oh,
right.
He is so dead. Like,
yeah.
He just punched his heart out.
Yeah.
And so
more like kicked his heart out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kicked his heart
definitely.
out. So we do all of that, and then the next day, Ip Man wants to know where Lynn is. He can't find him. And
but he finds the tin box.
He finds the tin box that he was looking for, and he's like, I want to fight, because he kind of suspects what's going on. He goes in, and immediately he says, and this is probably my favorite scene in the movie.
Well, he pretty much gets from the police officer's facial, like he asked, what happened to Lynn? Is he alive? And all the police officer says is, I don't know, but it's like, he's dead. So he goes there, sees what's happening, super upset, volunteers to fight and says, give me 10 people. And this
really quick, before he does, I just, like, testament to Donnie Yen's acting. He kills it at the scene where he's, like, shaking the gate, and he's like, open the gate, and we have not seen Ip Man with, like, high emotions. He's always been cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah.
So him being angry is like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
This is bad news.
Yeah.
And then, go ahead.
And then he says, give me 10 people. And then one of the most insane fight scenes I've ever seen happens.
Yeah, what do you think about this scene?
Yeah, it was great. But it's like, I know it's really hard to choreograph multiple people coming at one person, because everyone's like, when you see something like that, like, why is people coming at him individually?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You just rush him. And at times they do, but I do feel like the moves were cool, but some of the moves were a little too, they weren't efficient, because the whole thing about Wing Chun and him was efficiency. But when he was fighting them, I felt like there was some grappling and taking him down and punching him in the face. And that was like a lot of wasted time. And 2 or 3 guys could have been right on him when he did that.
Oh.
Definitely.
Yeah.
See, things I would not notice. This is why you're here.
I tell in my brain when I'm looking at them, like, the other guys are just too scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Writing an excuse for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he does that thing
could.
where he breaks that guy's leg. He, like, kicks him in the, like, kind of where the hip connects.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
That hurts.
Uses his leg as leverage, just puts his foot on his hip or upper thigh, and then wrenches it up to his face.
Yeah. And talk about crazy sound effects.
Yeah.
For that.
And he pops that guy's arm out of his socket too, that he like throws to the side.
Mm-hmm.
Does the machine gun punch to a guy, and then there's like one guy left, and he's kind of just like, "Here I go," just beats him very easily.
Right.
So then the general says, "What is this guy's name?" And
he says,
says,
"I'm a Chinese man."
Yeah.
But the police officer is the translator, so he tells him his name.
Yeah.
Basically, the police officer decides what should be said.
Yeah,
Right.
no, he was trying to save him.
Right. Yeah, so he tells him later on the general wants him to come back, and to which he says no, or he's just leaving, and then the police officer says, "Of course he'll come back."
Yeah.
Right. And this is when Ip Man like calls him out and slaps him in the face and says, "You're a traitor. You're a traitor."
Yeah.
To the interpreter. And I think they do a pretty good job of, like, obviously you're on Ip Man's side with everything in the movie, but also, like, you do kind of see where the interpreter's coming from. I do think he was being a traitor, and I would hope if I was in a position like that, I wouldn't do what he did. But I think he ultimately redeems himself by helping house Ip Man when they're looking for him. And he gets shot later, like trying to stop them from taking Ip Man, right?
When?
Like,
The
isn't
interpreter?
it before the final fight? Yeah.
No,
They just beat him up, I think.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they just really rough him up.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. Like, I think they did a great job with the continuity of the story and the characters. It was very believable, like what everyone's going through, and yeah, something like that for the interpreter to do what he's doing. It could have been really cheesy, but it was very believable. And yeah, you felt his pain, and it was great because the arc of how the officer was such a dick, right, pulling out that gun, and then kind of was made fun of, but then you see him growing respect for Ip Man, and even during that time, interpreter, he had like the utmost respect for him. Even after he slapped him, he was like, he wasn't insulting Ip Man. He was just saying, "This is just my job, I'm just trying to stay alive," or whatever he said.
Right.
But he didn't insult his master, or the master, Ip Man. So yeah, I liked how they were consistent with that.
Yeah. And it's interesting character development for Ip Man throughout the movie, because basically after he does what he does to the 10 guys, he's with his wife and he's kind of admitting that he's useless. Like basically all that he's become an expert in. Like what was it for? And that's when, she's like, I am the happiest I've ever been. A lot of it because they are together now. Like they have no other choice. Like that's it. They only have each other at this point. So, she's telling him like, you are not useless. Yeah. And of course, as the movie goes too, he understands that like he believes that what his expertise is useless, but he learns quickly that in times like these, this is what he is for. Like this is what he is meant for. Yeah.
And it's cool how later in the movie, when he's having the final duel with the Japanese general, his wife and child are being driven away, and she's like, I never supported him. Like, I never truly understood, and I don't want to miss this fight, even if it makes me unsafe, because I want to be there for him.
Right.
Because it could be his last fight.
Yep.
And so then they show up at the final fight. But we are skipping a couple of things. We're getting close to the end here, but there is the cotton mill.
Yeah.
That I think it's either Ip Man's brother or Ip Man's wife's brother owns the cotton mill, and they're being sabotaged by, guess who? The original thugs from the beginning of the movie. And those guys are saying, you need to give us money, and they're kind of holding them hostage. And they say, we'll come back for it. And then Ip Man proceeds to train all of them, and that's kind of when he learns, like, I am useful. I can pass on my teachings.
Yep.
And that's a great sequence where people are like, moving cotton, and then as they'll cross each other, they'll do like a move to practice really quick and then keep moving. And it's like
the music in that scene was insane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. With him teaching them.
Yeah. Man, that guy did a wonderful, wonderful score.
Yeah.
And so then there is finally like the thugs show up and they have like the last battle with Ip Man and all of the cotton people. And it's great because the cotton people, that's a poor description, but the cotton workers, they start fighting and they're doing pretty good. But then like Ip Man walks in like slow motion and then he starts going nuts.
And here's a question story-wise, because I know that kind of at that point, the police officer is like keeping him safe, giving him asylum.
Yeah.
And he is talking to his wife about fleeing to Hong Kong. He knows people there.
Yeah.
But he catches wind of what's happening there. And that's when I know we kind of already talked about this, but that's like the inciting incident of, I can't leave, I'm necessary. Like these people need me.
Yeah.
So therefore, he shows up, helps them, saves the day.
Yeah, which then, but unfortunately, that alerts the Japanese soldiers knowing where he is.
Right.
And we have a great fight with the axe scene that apparently he cut right next to his eye in. Then also he whips the pole and is able to keep the two guys at a distance with the pole.
Mm-hmm.
That was so cool to me. I don't know how realistic that is, but I was there for it.
Yeah. That to me, I thought the continuity strength there again. bothered me a little bit. It was fun.
Mhm.
It was fun, but that kid, Lynn's brother, well, obviously he can't do anything. He's
Right.
so
Right.
so
That's
Donnie
true.
could have just put him on the ground with one hit. But the fact that it made it like it was 2 against 1, it's like, no. That guy was like, he was nothing. And the other guy
Right.
was such a badass. And
Right.
then they just made him just kind of a wimp all of a sudden.
Well,
yeah, you would almost think that because he lost the last time, he would give him everything he had,
Yeah.
even more this time.
I suppose the one argument for the kid is that he knows him and maybe he's not trying to hurt him too bad. That'd be my one argument, but I don't know that necessarily explains away what you just said, because he could still probably incapacitate him.
Yeah, he could.
And then
Yeah.
make him not
Which he pretty
die.
much does. It just takes him longer than it's like, you probably could have done that 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So
they fight, and then he's able to pull aside Lynn's brother and give him the tin can that has the kite from the beginning of the movie, which I don't think we ever mentioned on this, but hopefully if you're listening, you just recently watched the movie, so you know what I'm talking about.
everyone should be watching this movie.
Yeah, it's on all of them are on Netflix, so nobody has any excuses.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you don't have Netflix. But so they have that, and there's a nice like kind of resolution with that brother character who went away and was, kind of lost, I guess you could say, prodigal Sonny.
Yeah.
And then the soldiers are like, we know Ip Man's here, we want him, and he's hiding. But then they're like beating people up, and then he comes in and he goes, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we've already talked about like him being in prison, refusing the food and stuff. We have the final showdown between the general and Ip Man.
We kind of talked about it a lot, but, I guess so. Just get to the fight in general, because we kind of talked about when he was being held and he refused food. The general and the colonel had their little talk. So then they're at the fight. Like I said, kind of like how I feel conditioned to expect that this is going to be like a 20-minute fight.
Right.
So I'm like really settling and getting ready for it. I'm not like tired of the movie at all.
Right.
But I'm just getting ready for potentially feeling that way, and it did not feel that way at all. Pretty quick. I am like, I kind of appreciate that while Ip Man and the general are fighting, that the general does get some hits in.
Yeah.
Makes it a little bit more like believable that this is like the big boss
Right.
guy.
Right.
You got to show some stakes.
Right.
Right. And
wait a minute. He might have the best of them. Like,
Right.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, even if it's like 3 shots.
Yeah.
Well, and there's that great moment where he's got him like up against the post and he's doing all those Wing Chun.
Yeah, I love that. That was great.
And then it cuts to him practicing on the dummy and back and forth, and you're like, yeah. And I'm always a sucker for when a movie like him defeating the general obviously does not free the Chinese people, but it gives them hope. Mm-hmm. And I love when a movie does that. It's like he is a symbol for the Chinese people now. And it does kind of tie in that theme that's been throughout the movie of like, this is a legend. Like this is a folk tale almost. Like this is how it happens. Now he's a symbol. He's not a person anymore almost.
And like based on how the people kind of started rioting, it's like hopefully, like they took back the town.
Right.
Because of what he did.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll find out in the second one.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true.
Although I think he moves somewhere after this.
He is
Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Hong Kong, yeah. And that's where he opens up a school.
Yep.
And one of his students is a little known guy named Bruce Lee at some point.
Yeah, who's that guy?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, when we were watching this movie, it was more towards the beginning, and I don't remember what I was talking. I just said like, "Oh, this is like a different movie than I thought it was going to be."
I think you said like, "It's weird that they chose this time period."
That's what I said. And then Mike is like, "Well, this is a true story." And I was like, "What?" And you're like, "Yeah, this guy trained Bruce Lee." I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, it's interesting how you said his sons were on set.
Yeah.
That's. I would love to talk to them and be like, how accurate is this movie?
Yeah,
Right,
that's
yeah.
what I was wondering.
And it'll be interesting as we go through this series. it'll be interesting to see if they're still consulting on future movies. Because I mean, I really don't know where the series goes, and I don't know if they just like make up a bunch of stuff because they're like, we just want more Ip Man, or if they do try to center it on an event in his life that's real. You know, I really don't know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. From what I've seen, I don't think it's real. It gets Mike Tyson's in one of them, and I think it's just to make it fun and cool and interesting.
Yeah, I'm curious. Is from what you remember, was Mike Tyson much of a good fighter in the movies in regards to like movie magic, I guess?
Yeah, he was just a boxer. He wasn't like a martial arts guy.
Right.
So Donnie Yen trying to defeat a boxer, he just used a lot of kicks.
Okay.
But as far as I remember, I think it was a draw.
Oh.
What? Come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ip Man's gonna wipe the floor with Tyson. I'll say it.
I can't remember. But that's the thing. Is like I remember watching the later ones, and Ip Man was kind of getting his ass handed to him in some of these other films, and that's why I kind of thought I was already used to that. So when I saw the first one and he was just like untouchable, I was kind of like, oh, okay, I forgot that he was supposed to be this good.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's interesting.
But yeah, I think in the other ones he does have difficulty with certain characters. But I don't know if he was injured. I can't remember. Again, it's like they're all blending in.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the movie. I really like this movie a lot. And it was a nice palate cleanse to what we've... Well, actually, the last series we covered was a great palate cleanse too. But we haven't covered a series like this on the podcast, so this was super, super cool.
Uh-huh.
That's what I have to say about the movie. Do either of you have anything you want to say about the movie, summary, anything like that?
I was just going to say that for a movie that is pretty much about a person, and especially since the person is real, you know, like we're talking about, we don't really know how true this story might be.
Yeah.
I think that in terms of like capturing a character and capturing like what he stood for, like what he represented, really awesome. And I hope, not really sure though, but I hope that the other movies can still represent that part of him.
Yeah.
Of like someone who is not prideful and is respectful and is, you know, the best.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it was cool to see it again. And like I said, the story was so good. And the acting, I thought, was really well done by Donnie Yen. And, you know, it always surprises me when I see these Kung Fu films, the actors they get in the film. It's like the difference between the U.S., they get the actors that can really do the stuff. So
yeah.
You see this actor and they're like, oh, wow, okay. And they start fighting. Like, wow, they're really doing it. There's no stunt double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure they do here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty convincing that the actors are doing everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only American series we have like that is Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise doing all those crazy stunts.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yep.
So, well, I'm sure there's stuff that maybe I just don't know about where it is just martial artists doing their thing, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like Jason Statham, Scott Adkins, you know, they're pretty much doing their own stunts too.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize
Yeah,
that.
about him. It's cool.
Yeah, and Jean-Claude Van Damme, Steven Seagal. Like,
oh yeah,
it seems like if you're a martial artist, you don't really have a stunt double. It's like that's what you're known for. You're not this amazing actor. So you're in it because you have some physical talent, and you're showing that off.
And a lot of the times, that's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, iLram, thank you for being on. That was so
much.
awesome. Do you have anything you'd like to plug or any upcoming projects you want to talk about or anything like that?
No, nothing right now. Just like I said, transition of moving, just trying to live a life that's financially free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially during this pandemic.
Yeah.
But,
Oh, geez. Yeah.
I hear that.
yeah. I'm just staying safe, staying healthy,
Yeah.
enjoying life.
Yep.
Hey, that's a good plug. Stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy life. That's good. Well, I will put your Instagram handle in the description of the episode so people can check that out if they'd like.
Okay.
Follow you there. Yeah, thank you so much for being on. This was like truly an honor to meet you and talk with you. And I mean, we hung out with Spider-Man for an hour and a half. So how cool is that?
Well, thank you too. This is a pleasure. It's fun talking about this movie.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, next week is Ip Man 2, and we're going to have another special guest. So make sure you tune in next week. We'll see you guys later. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Bye. Thanks.